I'm Teisha Bader in for Mark Golub. And in the news, the recent diplomatic strides made by Israel, including the exchange of ambassadors between Israel and Turkey, marking the final stages of reconciliation between the two countries, and the visits this week of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to Central Asia. Uri Bar-Ner is a former Israeli ambassador to Turkey, where he served from 1998 to 2001. He was also Israeli Consul General in Chicago and Deputy Consul General in New York City, as well as the Deputy Director General of the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and has served in diplomatic missions in Europe and Asia. Bar-Ner currently serves as a senior advisor to the chairman of the America-Israel Friendship League. He joins us now on the phone from Israel. Welcome, Uri.
Shalom, welcome.
Shalom, thank you so much for joining us on JBS. So the last few weeks have seen some really significant steps, it seems, for Israel in the international community, including, as I just mentioned, Israel naming its new ambassador to Turkey, Eitan Naeh, who arrived in Ankara just about 2 weeks ago, and Turkey's naming of their ambassador to Israel, Kemal Okem, who just arrived in Jerusalem this past Monday and presented his credentials to Israeli President Reuven Rivlin. This, of course, following a reconciliation agreement that was signed with Turkey earlier in the year in the aftermath of the Mavi Marmara incident of 2010, which we'll talk about in a bit. But being yourself a former ambassador to Turkey and knowing that country, I'm sure, very well and that relationship with Israel very well, what was your initial response to the exchange of ambassadors? How did you feel seeing the ceremonies both in Ankara and in Jerusalem?
Well, my feeling was Shechianu, which means wonderful and God bless us that we reached this point. I was ambassador in Turkey for 4 years, and we had excellent relations. And then, for many reasons, it broke down after the Marmara case. But the security relations stayed always the same, never went down, and they are until today on $5 billion from both sides. So I felt very well about it, and now we have to do the best. I know Eitan Naeh very well. He is a very capable young man, and he'll be a good ambassador. He has good information and knowledge about Turkey. He knows the Turkish language. That's a very important element, and I'm looking forward to renew our contacts, relations, and excellent economic relations between the two parties.
Now, I know economic ties were very good with Turkey in the past, and you said that security relations have not changed. What do you mean by that?
I meant that the security contacts between the Israel Defense System and the Mossad, if I may say so, continued all the time. And this was very important for both sides. Turkey needed it, and for us, naturally, it was extremely important to have the relations with Turkey on a very, very important level. And this helped us to renew it now.
Interesting. And Turkey, of course, also came to Israel's aid recently with the devastating fires that occurred across the country. And again, with the ambassadors being exchanged, this is a very good sign. But it also seems to be a bit complicated, and I wonder if you found this at the time also. Turkish President Erdogan is often critical of Israel in regards to the Palestinians. Turkey also is said to have a close relationship with Hamas, who rule in Gaza and who are a terror group and continue to attack Israel. Can you talk a bit about these complications and how they work in the current situation?
Yeah, regarding the Hamas, we are in contact with Turkey on this matter, and Hamas activities in Turkey were reduced substantially. The office stayed there in Ankara. I know Ankara very well, being the ambassador there for 4 years. So we are not going to let it be a problem between our two countries.
So you're saying that there's dialogue about it. So even though Turkey may have expressed different interests than Israel, Israel has the kind of relationship that they can discuss these issues?
Absolutely, yes, and we will continue to discuss it. You have to understand, the vast majority of the Turkish people always supported Israel and continue to be our supporters. They know very well that Israel and Turkey are the only two democratic countries in the area. They have huge problems with the Arabs since 1923, when they blamed them for the collapse of the Ottoman Empire. And we, of course, have the problems as well. And jointly, we have a lot in common regarding the import and export, if it comes to steel, if it comes to fashion, and so on and so forth. Textile, we have been doing it and will continue, and therefore our relations are in a very, very strong basis.
So let's go back for a minute to May 31st of 2010, the Mavi Marmara incident. Israeli commandos boarded a Turkish ship that was trying to breach Israel's blockade of Gaza. The Israeli troops were unexpectedly attacked by several passengers on board the ship who were armed. And in the clashes that ensued, 9 Turkish citizens were killed, another died later, several Israeli troops were injured, and in response, Turkey recalled its ambassador to Israel. And since then, of course, ties have been greatly strained. What were your thoughts at the time of what happened and how Israel responded in the aftermath?
Well, it was an unfortunate incident that we never really thought it will happen. We had to seal the Gaza Strip from support from anybody to Gaza that was under siege at that time, that harbored terrorism in many, many ways and hurt us a great deal. So when it happened, I thought that we will overcome it, and as a matter of fact, we abided by their condition. Number one, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister, apologized to Obama when to Turkey, when President Obama was in Israel. Then we paid compensations of $20 million to the 9 families, and we allowed Turkey to renew its commercial activities with Israel and the Gaza Strip via the port of Ashdod. And this has been going on. So I think we abided by everything, even more so. And it was very disappointing that this continued, but there was a change in government in Turkey, as we all know, which was not as friendly to Israel as used to be the previous government. But this has changed, and now I think that I know that we are working it out together, and President Erdogan is all for it, and Turkey needs us no less than we need them, because they cannot be isolated in the Middle East. They have huge problems with Syria. They are at war with Syria. They have many problems with Iraq and many other countries. And even with Egypt, there are at present problems as well. So the only country in the Middle East that is friendly to them basically is Israel, and they need us, and therefore they decided to renew the relations. As well, is the American Jewish community. It's a very important element. Turkey needs the United States badly, and they see the American Jewish community as an important vehicle to convince the government, the president of the United States to enhance the relation with them. And therefore, for all these reasons, it's a matter of common interest and also common background.
Now, I want to get back to Syria in a moment, but first I want to just ask you, because Turkey has a relationship with Hamas, how is Israel trying to see if Turkey can help in regards to the return of the two IDF soldiers who were killed in Gaza, Hadar Golden and Oron Shaul? Their bodies are being held by Hamas. I'm sure there are some negotiations going on there. Can you speak about that at all and how Turkey might help?
Well, there are negotiations. Turkey can be of great help because it has the relation with both parties. And I believe that it will work itself out. It may take some time. Turkey is very instrumental in receiving back the two bodies of the Israeli soldiers that are there held by Hamas.
Now, of course, Syria, as you mentioned, putting that country into the equation, Israel, Turkey, Syria, the United States, ISIS. What is your view on the current situation today in Syria and those relationships?
Well, it's very important to understand that since 1973, we did not have even one border incident with Syria in the Golan Heights. Only recently, we had some problems there, which we took care of it. So I believe that it is the interest of Syria, of all parties, to maintain the quiet in the border with Israel. And that's, I'm sure, the way is going to continue. We will continue to have strong and good relations with Syria, even with Assad. He, of course, is reluctant, but he knows that if he wants to exist in the Middle East, the relations with Israel are very important, and I believe it will proceed. And with Hamas, they are a terrorist organization, and we are going to continue to fight them in any way possible, even though there is a quote-unquote ceasefire now, which we are ready to continue and maintain for the time being. And Turkey in this matter can be of great influence, having the headquarters of Hamas in Turkey.
Let's talk a bit about Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's historic visits this week to Central Asia. He went to Azerbaijan, where he has visited once before years ago, and he became the first sitting Israeli Prime Minister to visit Kazakhstan. What is the significance of both of these trips to these countries that are primarily Muslim?
Well, it's very significant. You remember that these two countries border with Iran. And it's very important that we will have good relations with countries bordering with Iran. And eventually, it may be even a conduit to the relations with Iran, slowly. It was done in the past, but I know it will be done in the future as well. Now, we have vast economic relations with Azerbaijan. The defense relations amount to more than $5 billion, and it has been going on and continue. And now we import from Azerbaijan oil, which is very important as well. And through our pipelines, possibly we can do it through Turkey to Europe also. So it goes both ways. We also import and export from Azerbaijan clothes, aluminum, agriculture products, technology, and so on and so forth. So there is a vast area of mutual cooperations economically between Azerbaijan, Israel, and as well with the other stans countries in the area.
Now, Netanyahu said that what he really hopes for is to impact the current bias against Israel at the United Nations by creating relationships, positive ties with these moderate Muslim countries. What do you think about that? Do you think that's a realistic goal? Do you think that could actually work?
Well, the United Nations, from the very beginning, except the time when they decided to establish a Jewish and a Palestinian state in 1947, has been problematic with Israel. I think that it will be helpful the more countries that have good relations with Israel, the more we can affect the United Nations, even though the votes are usually automatic votes for the Arabs. But in the last few years, because of the problems with Iran, even Saudi Arabia and the Persian Gulf countries really seek to improve relations with Israel. We have a peace treaty with Egypt, remember? We have a peace treaty with Jordan, that's very important. Now, in having a kind of a quid pro quo relations with Saudi Arabia and the rest of the Persian Gulf countries, this can have an impact on the United Nations as well, in the way that we will see less and less anti-Israeli resolutions, even though when it will come to a vote, we know that they'll vote against us.
Netanyahu also said that he asked the president of Kazakhstan to help in getting Israel accepted as a rotating member of the 15-member UN Security Council, because Kazakhstan starts a 2-year term on the council in January. Do you think that's something that could really happen? Was this a realistic request made by the Prime Minister?
That's a very complicated issue. We have to remember, when it's come to the Security Council, there is a veto vote there, and the United States always did not allow anti-Israeli resolutions to pass through the Security Council, through all the administrations, including now with Obama administration. When it comes to the General Assembly, there is a built-in majority against Israel, but more and more there are countries, non-aligned countries, that are for Israel. If you take India, I was Consul General in Bombay many years ago. We always have excellent commercial relations, very difficult political relations, especially in the time of Nehru and then Indira Gandhi. But recently, with a change of presidents there, it is improving, and I believe that it can improve even more. And we have already good economic and other relations with India, and I believe that it will improve. That's very important.
And it's interesting in a way that on the one hand, we have these strides happening on the diplomatic front for Israel. On the negative side, we have the rise of anti-Semitism. We have the rise of the BDS, boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement against Israel, in particular on college campuses here in the United States. And we're seeing this movement forward on the diplomatic front, on the global front, with these recent diplomatic visits, the reconciliation with Turkey, Netanyahu also visited several African nations over the last few months, and representatives of Africa were in Israel recently to learn more about the country. Taking all of those elements in, how do you see the current state of affairs as far as Israel standing in the international community, and are you optimistic?
I'm very optimistic. The fact that you mentioned now speak for itself. We have improved relations with many countries in Central Asia. There are many of them Muslim countries. And now that we have relations with Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, and the others, I think that it will snowball and see good relations. We have to understand, they need the United States badly. And they see the Jewish community in the United States as a very important avenue to the American administration. And they see Israel as a major influence in the Jewish community and also in the US government. This makes a big difference, and therefore I am very realistic, pragmatic, and I think that relations are improving and will improve.
Now, of course, in talking about U.S.-Israel relations, Israel just welcomed the 2 Adir jets, which was a huge ceremony to welcome these advanced stealth fighters from the United States. We had this large defense aid agreement signed by the U.S. for Israel. Talk a bit about the U.S.-Israel relationship. I know you are special advisor to the America-Israel Friendship League, IFL. How do you view things right now between the U.S. and Israel?
First, let me just mention, yes, I am an advisor to the America-Israel Friendship League. And the organization has existed since 1973, and I was associated with it almost from the very beginning in 1978. And this is a non-political organization which enhances the relation between Israel and the US. Even now, we have a delegation of Afro-American leaders in Israel that are brought by the America-Israel Friendship League. In 2 days, I'm going to meet them, and we are bringing 10 to 15 delegations from all walks of life, in particular, young ambassadors of 10th and 11th graders from high school. And we are the only organization in the US and Israel doing it. And we exchange 100 students every year. And we raise all the funds to do it. And that's a very important element in enhancing the relations between the 2 countries. Number 2, I think that the relations between the countries today are so intertwined and so strong in every aspect that it can only become stronger and stronger, regardless of the political problems. It's no secret that we had not an easy political situation in the last few years. It has improved recently, and without going into American politics, factually talking about the personalities involved, I believe it will even improve a lot after January 2017.
Uri, thank you so much for taking the time and sharing your vast expertise with us here on JBS. We hope we can speak with you again soon and speak of even more diplomatic steps and progress of Israel in the international community. Thank you so much. Toda rabah.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Uri Bar-Ner served as Israel's ambassador to Turkey from 1998 to 2001. He was also Israeli Consul General in Chicago and Deputy Consul General in New York City, as well as the Deputy Director General of the Israeli Ministry of Foreign Affairs. He also served in diplomatic missions in Europe and in Asia. Uri Bar-Ner currently serves as a special advisor to the chairman of the America-Israel Friendship League, and we thank him so much for his time. As always, thank you to our director, Sloan Copeland, production coordinator, Serge Goldberg, JBS's associate director, Dara Golub, editors, Dennis Golan and John McDevitt. I'm Teisha Bader, in for Mark Golub on this edition of In the News.